Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk. Brian Fisher is my name. Story on the Associated Press. I was interviewed yesterday by the national reporter for the Associated Press, called me from D.C., to talk about what had happened with the gay movement over the course of the weekend. You've got a judge imposing same-sex marriage on Arkansas. You have Michael Sam being drafted. There was one other major advance of the homosexual agenda that he was talking about. Maybe is what was done to the Benham brothers. I forget what, but he interviewed me because, again, and the tenor is that on their part is that, look, this is inevitable. This is a steamroller. He was talking about the bearded cross-dresser that won the Eurovision equivalent of American Idol. That's a huge thing over there. It's way bigger than American Idol. And the guy that won it has a beard, and he wears dresses. And I didn't hear him sing. I saw his press conference, and he talked with a very high-pitched feminine voice. Somebody told me they listened to him sing and wasn't that impressed. So it looks like that might have been a win for just the PC crowd. But all of these major lurches forward on the part of the gay agenda. So the AP reporter wants to talk to me is this inevitable? That was kind of the tenor of the piece. And the quotes from me are found toward the end of the piece. He has some comments from a guy by the name of Raynard Jackson, who's a conservative columnist that writes often about LGBT issues. Wasn't familiar with him until this article. And then a couple of quotes from me. And here's the quote he includes from me. Brian Fisher, director of issue analysis for the American Family Association, said this, quote, "Every advance of the homosexual agenda represents a setback for our culture and for sexual normalcy," he said. So there's nothing to celebrate in any of these situations. Fisher said the drag queen's victory demonstrates, quote, "the tragic level of sexual confusion that we have in our culture. To me, the fact that it's something that would be celebrated is a tragic indication of how far we have drifted from our moorings." And I did indeed say those very things. Now, Ed Morrissey's got a piece up on Hot Air today about the consistency problem that the NFL has with what they've done to the safety for the Miami Dolphins. Remember, he's the one that saw the public display of affection, Michael Sam, with his gay lover, just tweeted out that he wasn't happy with that. One word or three-letter tweets, and he's been fined, sent to his room, sent to re-education camp. And Ed Morrissey says, look, NFL's got a consistency problem here because look what they did to Don Jones, for doing nothing more than sending out a couple of tweets on his own Twitter account. And he compares this to what the NFL did to Ray Rice. And he reminds us of what happened in February of this year. That's just 3 months ago. In February of this year, Baltimore Ravens running back Ray Rice was charged with beating his fiancée into unconsciousness in an Atlantic City casino. A grand jury handed down an indictment for third-degree aggravated assault, perhaps convinced by video footage of Rice dragging her out of an elevator with no one else in sight. Rice has since asked for a pretrial intervention to avoid a conviction. And so here's a guy. He's on tape in this Atlantic City casino dragging his unconscious fiancée out of an elevator. There's nobody else that comes out of that elevator, so it's just the two of them in there. They get on, it's the two of them. They get off, it's the two of them. Only he has to drag her out of the elevator box because she's unconscious because he beat her into unconsciousness. And the Ravens and the NFL have done nothing. Zero, zip, nada. So a guy sends out a tweet complaining about a public display of affection between two homosexuals. He gets fined. He gets suspended from the team. He has to go to re-education camp, and he can't even show back up at the football team until he has been sufficiently lobotomized. Here's a guy that beats his fiancée unconscious, beats her into a coma. And the NFL and the Ravens do absolutely nothing. You talk about a war on women. Maybe the NFL needs to do a little bit of soul-searching on that whole issue. Now, on this Michael Sam deal, I've got 3 clips from Stephen Smith. This is clips 2, 3, and 4. Number to call, by the way, 888-589-8840. This is Stephen Smith. He's a commentator on ESPN. He's on with, I believe, Skip Bayless. And it's interesting, this Stephen Smith, now I don't know where this guy's coming from. I get the suspicion almost that this guy might even be a Bible-believing Christian. But he's talking about this public display of affection where they kiss. They have this big, wet, slippery kiss. They feed each other cake like it's a wedding celebration. And this is what Don Jones was responding to. And Stephen Smith commenting about what they did and then the treatment that Donald Jones receives. Clip number 2, let's listen.
Number one, I didn't see, and I still haven't seen, people were elaborating with the cake on the face and all of this other stuff that was going on. If I saw all of that based on what was described to me, because, again, I haven't seen it, I would say the same thing that I would say to a heterosexual couple. Get a room. Outside of that, the other thing that I want to add is that when it comes to the players and their tweets, I don't believe they should have been punished for it. I'm of the mindset that there is freedom of speech. People have the right to say what they feel. And if there are ramifications for it, so be it. If advertisers and sponsors and them, they don't want to endorse them or something like that, well, then that's the price that you clearly was willing to pay, and you have to pay it. But I think it's a very, very dangerous thing when people see something and they have a problem with what they're seeing and they express themselves and ultimately they're fined. Because I'm sitting there saying to myself, well, wait a minute. It's one thing if you're gay, so be it. I mean, I'm liberal in my thinking. I've always been an advocate for, civil rights for the gay community. I don't believe in hate crimes and, verbal, physical, or otherwise. I definitely think, and I definitely am a proponent for them receiving their civil rights and things of that nature.
So Stephen Smith saying, look, this is dangerous. In fact, he says it's very, very dangerous when people simply express themselves. They have a reaction to something they see. They honestly express that, and immediately they are fined for it. He says, look, this is very, very dangerous because he believes in freedom of speech. He believes that people ought to have the right to say what they feel and then deal with the ramifications with advertisers and so forth. He says, look, this is an extremely dangerous thing that the NFL is doing to Don Jones. Let's listen to the second of these 3 sound bites. Clip number 3, go.
But I've implored in the past for the gay community to understand and accept what I'm about to say again. That doesn't mean that everybody's going to like you and like what you see. And as a result of that, people should have the freedom to not want to be associated with that or not want that in their face. Now, if people don't like that, then that's fine. I don't have a problem with it. But I do respect those that do. I had a store owner, Skip, literally walk up to me while I was en route to studio. I was coming out of a CVS store, and he says, I watch you guys on ESPN all the time. He said, but what I saw this weekend was a bit too much. It was constantly in my face, and I was with my kids. I didn't know what to say. I don't know how to respond to that. I wish the church stand up and make their case known, whatever it is. I'm not qualified to go there. I don't know. But I do know that it's a problem if people are not bothering anybody from the gay community and they're proponents of their civil rights and they're proponents for, just being morally treated correctly, et cetera, but if they say that they don't want to see something, all of a sudden they're going to be fined. You could say they're wrong. You could be the Miami Dolphins and talk to them, but to fine them and prohibit them from team activities, that's getting a bit dicey now. Now it's getting a bit convoluted and far more complicated than I'm qualified to speak on.
Now, what's striking to me is he says, look, I had a guy come up to me at a CVS store and said, look, I had my kids watching the draft. And that bothered me. What my kids were exposed to criminally on ESPN. I'm there watching the draft, and I have to be exposed to that, and my kids have to be exposed to that? Come on, man. You guys went too far. And Stephen Smith says, look, I think the guy has got an absolutely great point there. And did you catch his appeal to the church? This is amazing. I wish the church would stand up and make their case known. This is Stephen Smith, ESPN. Ladies and gentlemen, he's calling us out. He's saying, you're the church. I'm on ESPN. I'm a sports commentator. But you are the church, and you need to stand up and make your case known. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I would say that that's a shame. Shame on us that it takes a commentator on ESPN to tell the church to do its job, to get the church to get up out of their pews and take their stand in the public square for what is right and true and just when it comes to human sexuality. Now, I've got one more soundbite I'll play coming out of the break, and then we'll take phone calls, 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840. But that's just an amazing thing to me that here is Stephen Smith. This guy's a commentator on ESPN. And he's saying, look, the people that are qualified to speak to these moral issues are the church, and the church is silent. I'm not qualified to speak on this. I'm not a biblical scholar. I'm not a pastor. We need the church. I mean, can I get over that? Listen to this. This is a quote. I wish the church would stand up and make their case known. I mean, this is amazing to me. The stuff that we've been saying here at American Family Association for decades, appealing to the church, appealing to pastors to be clear from the pulpit. We're not talking about haranguing anybody. We're not talking about being obnoxious. We're simply talking about taking a stand for biblical values and teaching the people in their congregations what the Bible teaches about sexuality and urging them to take those convictions with them into the public square, wherever that happens to be. 97%, we saw that survey, 97% of pastors believe that the Bible teaches that homosexuality is wrong, that same-sex marriage is wrong. You know how many of them said they would actually deal with it from the pulpit? 31%. So 97% believe it's wrong. Only 31% say they plan to say anything about it. Too controversial, too much blowback, too much pushback. Well, ladies and gentlemen, here's a guy from ESPN saying, church, we need to hear from you. Church, you need to stand up and make your voice heard. I wish the church would stand up and make their case known. Let's hope Americans and Christians all over the fruited plain are listening and will respond. Focal Point and AFR Talk. Be right back.